Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Mythic J, back here with another edition of the tier list. Season 34 just wrapped. I should have had this video out faster. Do apologize. I got sick and I was traveling in Tokyo. But here I am on a Friday night. I just canceled all social engagements. I ran home to make some hot, steamy Mythic Heroes content for you. So hopefully you enjoy. This is the Season 35 tier list, factoring in the Season 34 results. Okay, so basically I'm taking the best players in the game. So this edition of the tier list, unfortunately, in Division 1, they kind of win traded and gave the win to Dustman, so I'm not including him. We have T-Train, the winner of Division 2. We have Pyre Husky, shout out to Pyre Husky guildmate. He beat the immortal Quinn in this bracket here. Quinn has won like 20 in a row, 15 in a row, but Pyre Husky has won like around 5 in a row or so. Say 10 from Anka's Wrath, the best English-speaking guild, basically. Q from Anka's Wrath, very strong lineup this time. They beat Sparkspear, who's also one of the most decorated players in the game. I'm actually considering removing Quinn and Sparkspear from my list of rankings. And the only player that I'm going to keep even when they lose is Lorak, who I think is probably the best player in the game at this point when you factor in spending. Maybe not pound for pound, but you know, he always has like the best lineups, the freshest clothes, the chillest bro basically, but he won again. I have Punchy in the rotating rankings. That's because Punchy is not only a highly decorated player himself, but he's lost 4 times in a row to Lorak, and I think Division 6 actually looks like the strongest group in the entire game, with Jinny also around. And then we have the winners from Season 7 and Season 8, Hwanzong and Change, who are actually our repeat winners. So those 8 winners plus actually the 7 winners plus Punchy plus Quinn plus Sparkspear make the 10 teams for this lineup. If you remember from the previous video, the way you're supposed to use this tier list, so I have them separated into classes because you get class color crystals for the IW600s. So I have the tanks, the fighters, the mages, and the supports. And generally the supports and the fighters are overrepresented in this list. So you should just build heroes according to, you know, so you pick one of each color to work on, and you just go up and down the tier list basically. And I'm using stats from, you know, the past seasons, but I've kind of changed my methodologies. I'm trying to refine them. So for these rankings, the last season that ran is going to have 75% weighting, and then the 2 seasons before that is going to have a 25% weighting, and that's what I'm going to call the blended percentage that I refer to. There's only going to be 2 seasons worth of data counted for each one, and the main reason I'm doing that is because from 2 seasons ago, season 33, they changed the amount of teams required. So all of the data before that I consider not as useful. Okay, so with the explanation out of the way, let's get into it. So first of all, there's no demotions from the S tier, but we have a lot of upgrades into the A tier. And so to help me out with this, I set like kind of general rules, like guidelines. So basically any champ, any hero that has 90% plus usage, which means 9 out of 10 teams blended in the past 2 CAs ran these heroes, is going to get an automatic S tier. And then any SSR hero, because you'll see this list is quite UR heavy. Speaking of URs, I got Mythic Heroes to add all of the new hero graphics into the game as well. So we have Wukong, Epona, and Hanzo here. So thanks to them for adding that. But basically any SSR with 80% usage is also going to be an S tier hero, right? That means 8 out of 10 teams use the heroes close to, you know, twice in a row here. So there's no real changes to the S tier. You know, all of these heroes here have above 80-90% usage rate, except for 2 exceptions, which we'll talk about. So first of all, let's talk about the heroes that were upgraded here. So the first one's pretty easy. It's Nin. So Nin Urzag newer hero, which means her percentage is actually underrepresented. She was used 73% in season 33, but jumped to 90% in the most recent season. So that puts her blend at 86%. Her ISS cost is 100, but it doesn't really matter because she looks to be one of the best heroes in the game. Even though her blend is 86%, I think it's more like 100% if everyone could build her. And the second hero that's going to move up is Leonidas. So this one I'm a little more hesitant on, but he has 80% blended and a 48 medium ISS cost. He's also an SSR, so he's going to move up here. So him and Odin kind of represent the bottom bar of what an S tier hero should look like. So Odin is actually only 73% blended usage, but an ISS cost of only 16. So he's a 71% blended usage, but ISS cost of only 16, and he's pretty solid in PvE modes as well. And he kind of forms like a comp, like a carry comp, with either Apollo or Archimedes, who's completely fallen out of the metagame. So Odin is like begrudgingly barely holding on to his status as an S tier, especially because Nin is a UR. So he's barely holding on to it, and Leonidas has barely been promoted as well. So if you compare like Leo directly to YSS, YSS is 88% blended versus 80% blended, and an ISS cost of 36 versus 48. So just a shade higher, but you know, YSS has also averaged 80% in, you know, all the previous seasons, whereas Leo's averaged more like 50%. So I can still see that, you know, that clear consistency in tier difference that we're looking for. But both of these heroes, you want to build their IW600s, whereas Odin, you don't have to as much. Okay, so hopefully that part makes sense. So other promotions here, Lucifer. So Lucifer and Nin are actually the same, so they both have 73% previous and then now 90%. So both of their blendeds are 86%. Lucifer only costs ISS 70, but which is low for a UR, but he's just extremely strong. He just basically hard carries you know, teams on his own, so he definitely deserves the upgrade here. And Freya is another hero that's in danger of losing her spot in the S tier. So I'm just going to make a few comparisons. So Lucifer, 86% blended, but looking like basically a super strong Omega carry. Freya is only 73% blended, so similar to Odin. She was at 82, now 70, and ISS cost of 32. So she's actually running at the exact same numbers as Susanoo, who's in the A tier. So they're both the exact same trend, 73% blend. The difference is Freya costs 18 fewer ISS. She has a PvE niche as well with that, you know, cleave steroid at the start. Susanoo also has a niche of disabling 1v1, so he can almost be argued to be almost S tier. I would give Susanoo like an A+ tier and Freya like an S- tier. They're like very close to each other and very close to being promoted or dropping out depending on their usage, but I'm gonna keep Freya in here for now. I will also admit to a slight Oda bias here. When I built my account, I built it with Oda, Odin, and Freya, so I might be biased here, but I'm gonna leave Freya in A tier for in S tier for now. Lucifer is gonna join her, and then we're gonna bring Prometheus into the S tier as well. So this puts 3 mages into the S tier. So the previous tier list, I wanted to wait. Lilith and Prometheus had both jumped to 100% usage. I wanted to see if they could both hold that ratio, but I kept Lilith into S tier because she costs half the ISS that Prometheus does. But in season 34, Prometheus was still 90% used, so he's basically proven it, I think, across 2 seasons. So despite the ISS cost, we're going to bring him up to S tier here. And then the final class, this is also kind of interesting. I'm going to bring Idun, Faust, and Hela into the S tier. So let me explain why. So first of all, Idun and Faust are, so Idun is the highest blended. She's 93%, and she has a definite niche. Faust is 88%. He also has a definite niche of backline disable. And then Hela also has a definite niche of bubble. She's 80% blended. So all of them are 80% plus as SSRs. Second of all, none of them require IW600 investment. These three actually have the three lowest IW investments of any SSR in the game. All of these lineups I'm pulling from are mostly whales. So if they don't have a hero built as IW, that means it's not necessary to make the hero run, which means they're also happy running these heroes despite not having the IWs on them. So we see like support is very heavily represented here with 7 S tiers, but that means that you can just build the bags for them. Focus the crystals more on like the high impact ones like Western Queen and Nua, and then kind of ignore the rest and just wait until you go. So based on their usages, and this could be wrong, like maybe the AI or a perfect player would split out the resources more, and some of the mages and stuff would move up. But as the game is represented right now, those are the changes that I've decided to make. Okay, moving along. So I have Cassandra in the B tier. I think originally I had her marked as A tier, but she has very low ISS cost, but that doesn't really matter for supports because you need way more crystals than ISSs because there's so many of them. Cassandra dropped from 55% to 30%. So her blended usage is only 36% now. So despite the low ISS cost, 36% is going to bring you down to a B here. But we actually have a number of upgrades that are replacing her. So starting with the tanks, I'm going to go ahead and bring Poseidon into the A tier, if I can find him. So Poseidon, his usage jumped from 18% to 40%. So now he's up to 35% blended. His ISS cost is only 4. I think he's just going to keep trending up in the metagame because of this new comp that I discussed in my last video. So he's going to be moving up along with his partner in crime, Oberon. So Oberon is a classically strong hero. Actually didn't jump at all. Held steady from 36% to 30% usage. So he's at 32% blended. ISS cost of only 8. But like I said, he's a part of this Poseidon comp. I think a lot of players are going to start copying this comp, and it's going to start scaling up. I really want to bring Apollo into the A tier as well. But he only has 29% blend, ISS cost of 16, which is still super low. My hunch actually tells me that he is an A tier hero. He also carries in PvE as well. Fuck it, why not? I'm just gonna bring him in. You could argue he doesn't really deserve it. So, if I compare him to Cam, who he's right next to right now, he doesn't look very good compared to Susanoo either. So Cam is at 73% and then dropped to 60%. So she's at 63% blended with 40 ISS, whereas Apollo is 29% blended with 16 ISS. And Cam is a newer hero too. So, yeah, I think I can justify bringing Oberon up because Oberon's ISS cost is actually half of Apollo's, and he's part of an established meta dominating comp. So yeah, I don't think I can quite do it with Apollo. I really want to, but I'm gonna bring him back down here, unfortunately. But I am going to bring Artemis up into the A tier. So Artemis went from 55% to 70% usage now. So she's at 66% blend. She's actually at part of one that super strong Oberon comp as well. She has a very established niche. I never quite gave up on her because she has a niche of like very heavy PvP burst damage. So I'm happy to bring her back, welcoming back basically the queen of Mythic Heroes. So welcome back to the A tier. She's someone I can see becoming S tier in the near future. And that does it, unfortunately. There is no mage that's going to be moving it up. But I am going to go ahead and leave Gabriel and Neff still in here. So Gabriel and Neff, if you want an update, they're both at 50% blended with low ISS costs. So I guess, and mages are very underrepresented because you can see that the URs are the top priorities here. So those are going to stay at A, even kind of due to scarcity. And then finally, the support that's going to be joining them in the A tier, there's actually two of them. So one is Aladdin, if I can find him. So Aladdin is very strong here. So just to give you some context, Iset is the currently existing A tier support. So she's at 73% blend with a very high ISS cost of 132, 73% blend. And so Aladdin just jumped to 50% usage. So now he's at 47% blended with 32 ISS costs. So about 1/4 the cost. The really good thing about Aladdin is he's being used in a lineup with the Amaterasu comp where you take out Western Queen. It seems to be performing at like similar efficiency. So that frees up an S tier, very powerful Western Queen for another lineup, such as Lucifer or something. And you can just basically replace one of the best heroes with Aladdin. So I think Aladdin is very good. So he moves up to A tier, and then the second hero that's going to move up actually is Dionysus, and Dionysus just jumped to 20% usage here. So he's at 15% blended, ISS cost of only 4. But the reason I'm going to bring him up to A tier and recommend that you build him is he's very strong in all of the PvE boss modes. So a lot of the bosses, anytime there's a yellow slot, you're going to generally want to bring Western Queen and Dionysus to debuff and do the most damage. And those boss modes, the crystals really add up. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in A tier. If he's completely gone from the Champions Arena lineups, then I can't justify having him at A, and he might drop to B. But for now, he's going to be in this A tier. And then there's two heroes finally to wrap this up that are dropping out of the B tier. So Marduk will be dropping from the B tier. So he dropped from 45% usage to 20% usage with a very high ISS cost. So now he's at 26% blended with a very high ISS cost. So I just can't justify keeping him here. He's looking to be kind of phased out. And then Epona, who some people had hyped. I actually thought she would be stronger than she would have been, so I misread her. I thought she would be like an A or a B, but it looks like she's finishing out at like a C tier-ish hero. So she's at she dropped from 36% to 20%, so now she's at 24% blended with a very low ISS cost of 16. I think based off like the number for Apollo, I think you can justify her as still being in the B tier. So I'm gonna compare her. Okay, so I'm just doing this really quick. So Epona is 24% blended. Hercules is 41% blended, and then Anubis is 27% blended with triple the ISS cost. So I think if Anubis is in B, then Epona should be in B as well. I don't want to quite drop Anubis out of the B into C tier, so I'm going to go ahead and bring her up. And then just doing some more check throughs, I'm going to bring Hanzo up to B tier based on recommendations from very strong players in our guild, Papa, and he said he's seen some other high level players use him. He's only at 10% usage. His usage went up to 10%, but his ISS cost is only 32. I think if players pick up on him, he's definitely someone who could be trending upward. He seems to have some, definitely some potential, so he might be worth exploring. And I'm just double checking everything. So in terms of like some of the biggest drops, Naga dropped 14% from 64 to 50, but she was ranked as B tier before. That might have even been an A, but she's just going to stay in B tier for now. And then Persephone is getting kind of no love from the streets, maybe because the meta is dominated by magic units. So unfortunately, this is kind of bad news for two of my favorite heroes. But so Archimedes dropped from 27% usage in season 33 to 0 in season 34. I think D Gorger, Bew, and Leonard are two of the successful players that were running him. So yeah, it looks like he's still in Leonard's lineup, and then he's still in. Okay, it looks like he's actually out of Bew's lineup as well. So that's going to be like one player maybe that runs him. We'll take a look. But that means his blended usage dropped to 7%. ISS cost of 32. I mean, I guess I'll still leave him at B. So we have 4 or like 5 fighters. Wukong is going to stay at A for now. We have like 5 fighters, 9 fighters. I mean, if you had to pick between Archimedes and like Hanzo, I think historically Archimedes and Apollo have been pretty close. Yeah, I think we still keep him at B for now. But I'm not super loving it. Archimedes is on a rapid decline to C, and then Persephone keeps dropping. Not completely sure why, but she's down to 0% now. So her blended usage is 2%. ISS still 24. There's not that many mages being represented here, so I'm still going to keep her at B and hope it kind of turns around, but we're going to be giving up on that soon. So hopefully this tier list makes sense to you. That's going to be the final tier list. I'm going to make the updates. I'm going to share them. None of the heroes in the bottom have really made any jumps here. I guess like GM was used in one winning lineup. Murasaki was used in one winning lineup. But I kind of knew like they could be okay or like have potential. I mean, if GM like consistently shows up, she's gonna be close enough to be upgraded to a C tier here. Maybe I should just do that so that. I mean, I still think like Murasaki is better than her, 1-for-1. So we'll just leave it like this. So this does it for the tier list. Hopefully you enjoyed. Check out my explanation video too of like how this is made and what the point of it is. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys.